Hello, this is Gene. It's been a long time since I did a video about Manchester United, but I think it's time to be done. And I wasn't really going to do anything about this, but I was out walking this morning, and normally I listen to grumpy pundits in the United States with Tommy Smith and Rodney Marsh, and they just had a whole hour and a half to sit there and just bash Ralf Rangnick. So I have to talk about this. Um, First of all, I grew up in the Tampa Bay area, and I was a big fan of Rodney Marsh when he played with Tampa Bay Rowdies back in the 70s and 80s. Of course, he missed a couple of sitters in his time that would have got us possibly a championship while he was there, but I always supported him. And there's a whole story I used to talk about that he used to talk about. He was from Manchester, and I always thought that was Manchester United. But I found out it was Manchester City. And sometime I'll go into that whole thing when he was talking about it. However, this morning they just went off on Ralf Rangnick saying he doesn't know what he's doing, that it's basically his fault, it's not the players' fault. So I'm going to go through with my opinion and tell you what I think is going on in this team. First of all, I think they said he's lost 5 games. That hasn't happened. I think he's lost 4, maybe 3. And I guess they don't see any improvements between before he took over and where we are right now, especially on the defensive side, and how much we control the ball right now. But I just want to go through that a little bit. I'll go through my thing here, and I want to go over each one of the players that he selected yesterday. Why they were the reasons why we lost the game, not the actual manager and his choices of selection of players, and the fact that guys that played the game, especially Rodney, who played at the top level, who don't see the changes that's happened in Manchester United since Ralph has come in. There's a lot of problems at the club, and it starts from the board and the ownership as well. I think there's still people that are there from Ollie time and before that don't really look at what's best for the footballing side of the team, that they're more impressed or not impressed with their share value. And that's the first thing that he brought up this morning when we were talking about it. It was the first thing that led off the whole thing today, because they drew against Burnley, who's at the bottom of the Premiership. People just don't understand that Burnley does this. They don't give up a lot of goals. They don't score a lot of goals. And if you don't take your chances, there's a chance you might not get a win there. Now, we've normally gone there and got our win, and we should have won the game yesterday. We had 3 balls that were in the back of the net. Only 1 counted. One, I might understand why they ruled it off, but not one of the other ones. Not. It should have been at least two goals for Manchester United. And if that happened, the game's over, and we would end up getting another goal probably on a breakaway. But the first thing that Rodney brought up was the fact that since Woodward left, that the shares at Manchester United have gone down by $1 billion or £1 billion or whatever, and that's the problem with the team. We are basically players united. Each player has got their own brand. Mark Roberts talked about this. Not that I don't agree with him everything, but he was right here. Everybody here who goes to Manchester United has a huge social media influence market. Whether you're a shit player or not, you can still have 1 million people who will follow you just because you play for Manchester United, because we have a huge global brand. So this is the first thing he brought up. This is what the problem is with Manchester United: the fact that our share prices have going down. We're not worth $5 billion anymore. We're really worth $4 billion or whatever the actual number is. It's not the players on the pitch that can't out there and do the actual plan that the coach gives them. I mean, the last 2 games we controlled both games. Both games both times the other teams had some possessions, but Burnley did absolutely nothing until we didn't play well when we first came out of the second half, and they got a goal because Harry Maguire doesn't know what he's doing. Now, before I go to talking about each individual players, when they sit there and they're talking about Rangnick and they're saying he doesn't know what he's doing, and then they talk to a couple of Manchester United supporters that come on their show and they're like, "Are you happy? Or do you think that he should be in charge after his 6 months are up, that he's going to go upstairs, that he shouldn't have say who's going to be the next manager? And they're all thinking, oh, he shouldn't have that. The fact is they don't see, I mean, I've been watching that team play for the last 30, 40 years, and obviously the last 10 years, because in the United States we can see every game pretty much. And I've seen each time we go up and down, we're never really that good. We've never been consistent in the last 8 or 9 years. But you can see from where we were when City came in and could have scored 8 against us, and Pep, I think, just let us go. Maybe in his future he thinks he's going to be a Manchester United manager. But City could have scored another 3 or 4 goals in that game easy. This is right after Liverpool wiped us out 5-0 at home. And Liverpool could have scored more goals than there. And they don't understand, since he came in, that he has not actually solidified that defense. We're just making individual mistakes, and some of the time it's really that the players are just not good enough. And we just have to understand that after about 2 or 3 years, we have to understand that these players are not good enough to play with the standard of Manchester United. Now, we can be a team and get 6 or 7 every week, every year, and be okay with that. But that's not really what Manchester United's about. The brand isn't for what it is, and it will cause some issues with our value. So I don't like that, and I think it's so myopic for them to go after Ralf Rangnick. And the one guy called in and said, you know, that Fergie was there for 3 years before he did anything. Oh, but nobody knew and they can't understand what a normal fan will say is like, we gave Van Gaal enough time, we gave Jose enough time, we gave Boys probably not enough, and we gave Ole a amount of time. And the same issue is the players have been there the entire time. Now, not all of them, but really since Jose left, we have the same cadre of players. We got a couple players in, a couple guys went out, and here we are. Keane said this many years ago, that these players will put Ole under the bus, and they did the Jose. Pogba did that, and he had a little click in the dressing room that did it. And then Ole came in, and we played pretty well for about a month, and then we went back to playing shit again. So these are the same players. They don't have a winning mentality. And then you just after 100 games, after 150 games of seeing these players play, they're not as good as they think they are. Now maybe they have the talent to be that way, but I think that they have other things that are driving their interests. They've made it to the top, especially for English players, and I don't like to be anti-English because too many players, too many pundits, too many people on YouTube are always anti-English when it comes to this. But once you become Manchester United, you've basically reached the promised land, right, as a player. Unless you want to go overseas and go to Madrid or Barcelona or something like that. But really, Manchester United is the highest level you can get in their lifetime. Now, maybe 20 years from now, maybe be somebody else. But right now, it's Manchester United, regardless of our stadium is falling apart and other issues that we have. So they think they've had it, and so they just don't go out and actually look like they're actually trying. And I'm like, are they really that much better? And then you look and you compare them person to person to the team they're playing. You got to take away how much they make, but they're not so much better. And if it's just a little bit more, if the effort's not there, if the IQ, football IQ is not there, you're going to get beat. Clearly, we should have won that game in the first 20 minutes. We had 3 goals that were in the back of the net. Only got credit for one of them. We had several other opportunities with the right pass that have got people in. And I've seen this. What I've seen, the improvement there, that we're controlling the ball, that we're getting the ball in positions to actually score. It's just a matter of getting the right pass. And when I go through each one of these, each players, I'm going to tell you why I feel that this is the issues that we're having. And that's something that can be coached, but sometimes it can't be. When it comes to not having enough speed or tactical awareness, after 2 or 3 years, you might have to say maybe that player's not good enough at this level and sell them off. And personally, I would promote players from the U team. We're not going to win anything in Europe, probably, unless we go on a great run and everybody just falls down around us. and I don't expect we'll be in the top four. So the idea, I think, is it'd be best if we just promoted people from under 18, under 23, and just see what they have. Anyway, as I said before, the previous managers have did with the same shit. We are players FC. We're not Manchester United FC. And I know that really this whole thing is supposed to be a response to those guys at Crumpy Pundits about their attitude toward Ralf Rangnick and saying that he doesn't know anything. He's not only, I mean, he is the mentor of some great coaches, and maybe he's not at the level that we have to have. But I think that what he's tried to done at Manchester United has been correct. The players have just not executed it correctly. And we could have won every game that we've been in. There's only been one game I think we didn't play very well. The rest of that we could have won all of them. And we could have drawn a lot of them too. We're basically a team that only can win by one goal at this point. Until we get to a point where we can actually put them to the store. When Burnley's neck was exposed, we're up 1-0. We should be up 2-0, but we weren't. But we're up 1-0, and we had plenty of chances to make it 2, and we didn't do it. Well, we did, but we didn't give it. And we just didn't come out in the second half, and that's on the players. So let me talk about each player, and I don't think I need this. I'm going to just go the players that he set out against Burnley. The only difference was Cavani started this time. He didn't start against Middlesbrough, and you could talk about him allowing Cavani to have a couple days off, whatever. But when they're on the pitch, it's up to the players. And the biggest problem we're having now is that we have a captain who doesn't lead as a captain, and he doesn't play like a captain. But I'm not going to start with him yet. So I'm going to start with Delo. I think Delo was just a little bit below par today. His crossing wasn't that good. But clearly, this is a very huge improvement that we've had. We've taken out Wan-Bissaka, who's a great one-on-one defender, but he doesn't give anything up on the other side. He's just as fast, maybe faster than Delo. Probably has the skills to have that, but right now, Ralf has decided that Delo is best at that position, and I agree with him. So that's a change that he's had before that Ollie didn't do. Ollie didn't rate Delo. Clearly, looking at Delo, he is somebody that was part of the fabric, the DNA of how this team used to be. So I have no issue with that there. So just below a 6, average performance, just a little bit below that. Didn't do anything wrong on defense, but and really they didn't do anything. So they got their goal because of just a stupid mistake by Maguire and Shaw. But I'll get to that as well. So great. He's a positive thing since Rangnick came into the team, and I think that this will help Delo. And Delo, regardless of whoever comes in, I hope whoever comes in doesn't just throw him on the bench and put back Wan-Bissaka, unless somehow Wan-Bissaka understands how to go be a threat going forward. Now, right next to, I think it's Varane. It's right next to Varane. Wan-Bissaka or Delo had another great, a 7 out of 10 performance. Possibly could help Maguire a little bit better, the goal. But he's like Ferdinand. He's very similar to Ferdinand. I think he's actually faster than Ferdinand later in his career. He has great IQ, and I want to talk about that too as well. Some of the problems that we have with this team is there are a lot of players in that team that have no IQ when it comes to football. They might have physical ability, pace, size, even determination, but their football IQ is just down the floor. I think that if there's probably half the people that started yesterday have some sort of IQ. So I'll say Delo has that. I think he has it, especially from offensive side, but he's getting better when it comes to defense, and I think he understands where to put the ball. So I think he's got it good. Varane clearly is like a high IQ. He's a genius when it comes to playing as a footballer. So above average performance, it's not his fault that we didn't win the last 2 games. Clearly, he's the best player on the defensive side, has been. he has really settled in really well in the Premiership, and I'm glad that we have him. And when he looks to his side and he sees the Maguire there, he must say, "What the fuck is going on here?" Because I worked with Ramos all this time. I'd rather have Ramos right now than Maguire. I mean, whatever. Now, Maguire had a very, very bad game. Had a couple chances on a crosses to do something. He was offside and fouled that took away Varane's goal, and he got turned over on the goal, and then he decided he wasn't going to tackle anybody because he was last man. He made the decision that I'm going to let David De Gea to save the goal. He said that on his interview after the game, and then he basically blamed the defense or the attack for not scoring enough goals. As a Manchester United captain, he should come out and say, "That's on me. I let the attacker to get past me, and when I came back, I didn't get off the ball off of him. That's on me, and we'll come back." He didn't do it. So, whatever. The guy is not. He's not at the level of a team in the top four. He's just not. He might be a good guy off pitch. He's just not that good, and we have to really look for another center backs in summer. We have to do that, or we have to find somewhere on our youth team that can be that way, or somebody that we've rolled out, somebody that has some pace that can play it. Obviously, I would hope that Bailey would be able to do this, but he can't. He gets injured all the time. So for him, I give him a 4 out of 10. And you can't really have that because really we think against teams like Burnley, he's going to have a good game because they're not that fast either. But it makes you wonder what's going to happen when we play against better teams. My issue is that at this point, that Lindelof should come in on Saturday and play for him. As far as football IQ, he's one of the worst on the team. His technical awareness of where the ball is, how he allows players that are not at the top level skill-wise to get past him is poor. He is. I do like it when he goes front forward with it. I think that he does something with that, but he's just so he's like it's not McTominay. McTominay does this little skip and hump thing, but at least Scott is faster than him and gets back if he needs to. Anyway, now the other is the enigma that is Luke Shaw. Quote unquote, people said he had a great Euros. I don't think he really did. He had a good goal in the final. I think he played average there. I think that England's national team and national football or international football is totally different than the Premiership, and he could be okay there. I still think he's not fit. I think that he has his issues with his weight. I could see it in his body. He could see. I think he's the guy who's so talented that he's faster than most people on the pitch. He's just so much better than everybody else that he thinks he can get away with certain stuff. But his football IQ has always been an issue, and Mourinho changed all that on him. And of course, at the time, he was thankful to Mourinho for doing it. And then later on, 2 years later, he said, "Oh, he was a bad person to me," and he just liked Ole because Ole gave the big arm against his shoulder and make him feel better. And he had a great year in a team that was not that good, but he had a good year. And he has the talent to do it. He's probably just below a 6, and the reason why I don't give him a 6 is because on the goal, he was on the other side of the field. He saw what was going on. He didn't step up a yard to play them on, and he didn't do it. And then he waited a little bit before he went in the box to try to stop him from scoring. If he'd just either saw what's coming and stepped up so it would have been offside, or he should have been running to that position quicker. If he was going to put him onside, you got to go after that, and he would have probably got rid of the ball or blocked it, so there wouldn't be a goal there. So he's not a 6, he's a 5. He had a great first half. Him and Sancho played really well together. I think that they're good together, but I think Sancho would be good with anybody. I think that he's clearly given him the time. Regardless of what happens with Greenwood, I think you have to play him. Um, he's one of the few bright spots that we've had. Now I say this, and it would probably mean that I'm agreeing with all the other pundits that are saying that Ralf is not know what he's doing because we're not winning these games, and we're not playing that well. But the signs are there. It's the matter of us just making the right pass instead of. And there's so many balls that are there that are not well weighted right, and it's just like if they just weighted it right, or if the strikers would make one less pass this way, they're there. It's just a matter of doing it, and it's a matter of doing it. And the only reason why that has actually changed the last 2 or 3 weeks because he's had them on the greener ground, and they've seen these things. So we're seeing what's happening. We're actually pressing, and it was just a bad comedy of errors that led to that goal. And when you have a quote-unquote one of the best defenders in the league to being turned and then sits there and I'm going to not touch anybody and just hopes that David can stop the goal, it's just stupid. So I gave him a 5. His football IQ is below average, but I think he's somebody that is actual serviceable. But I still think he takes him. I think he lets his own self down because I don't think he gives enough. And this is just not me saying it. Every other coaches he's had has said this. Years ago, I did a video on him, and it was the biggest video I ever did. And I was talking about Mark Goldbridge because he was defending him. Because I said he looked a little too thin or too thick in the midfield, in the midriff. And he's out there talking. Goldbridge is out there saying that's like bullying or some shit. I'm like, he's a footballer. He's supposed to be in shape. And I see he goes up and down in weight. And I know there's probably about a stone he goes up and down all the time with him. And he still is just as fast as anybody else. But it shows he doesn't have the motivation or the commitment to do what he's supposed to do. And that's the reason why that Mourinho was on his ass about it. And Val had issues with him. Anyway. He's serviceable, but do I really want? I mean, he's been here for a long time too, so it's a time that maybe we need to just get rid of all those guys and just start over. Anyway, now David De Gea, nothing wrong on the goal. Had a good save. Nothing that was a world class about it. So he's a 6 for me. I mean, seriously, he did kick the ball right back to him. So maybe not, but I mean, he's not so great with his distribution, especially with his feet. It's not too bad when he throws it out with his hand. But there was nothing for him to do the entire game. So, I mean, we controlled the game. You expect a Premiership team, regardless whether they're at the bottom or not, that when they come out, they know they could have been down 3-0. They come out, and they're going to come after us. The fact that we could not control some of that game in the midfield will tell you the problem that we have in this team. It's our midfield. Now, I don't like Maguire. I think Lindelof should start over him, but we still need another center back to partner Varane. Lindelof is good to be a smart starter. He could be on the bench, but we got to get rid of Maguire. He should not have the armband, and it's just not. It's not good. And I understand. I hear this all the time, and maybe it's true. Maybe Ralf can't do anything because he's an English player, and he's one of the most biggest signings we've ever had, and he's in the national team. We can't take the armband off of him. It'll hurt the brand, let's say. I think that Ralf will make a big issue right here, and if he doesn't do this on Saturday, then I'll say that okay, maybe Ralf is not the right guy, but Lindelof should start on Saturday. If he's gonna bench Ronaldo, if he's gonna do other things like that, if he's not gonna put Wan-Bissaka back in the team, then he's gonna have to bench Maguire because he's been horrible. He really has. Anyway, so I said David. So the next player, let's talk about Scott McTominay. Now he's been forced because the fact that we didn't get CDM during the transfer window. He's basically playing that position, and it's not really something that's conducive to his skill set. He was okay in the first half, but it's still that nobody really gives him the ball where the CDM will get it. And so that it's clear that the guys in the back four don't think that he has got the skills to hold on to it and then feed it out to the people. So they wait for Pogba to come back in line or do this stuff. But the first 20, 30 minutes of that game, we should have been up 3-0, 4 or 5-0 during the first half. And he played well. So the first half I gave him a 6. The second half he basically went missing. He did his thing on the defensive side. He didn't really think going forward. And maybe that was all with Burnley doing what they had to do. But he kind of faded in first. So I say overall for the game, I give him a 5. His IQ is probably average, just a little bit below average. But again, he's really out of position. I think if he was going box to box, I think he'd do a lot better. But I don't know. I don't really know that he's clearly a first teamer for Manchester United. I think he would be a squad player. But it's not his fault. He has to do this because we have nobody there. So that's the other issues with the team. And obviously, people have talked about this before. We have a problem with our recruitment, and we spent about $900 million the last 10 years, and we really hadn't got anything out of it. But overall, it's just a little bit below average. I think he tried to do his best. Bruno could have been masterful. He had so many issues. He saw the opening, missed it, or just a little bit off. He was moving. Him and Pogba were just playing together really well in the first half. Had a chance there right there at the top of the D, put it over the top. Always going forward. Probably should be the actual captain of this team. We're really going to talk about that. But probably a 7 for him overall. Just a little below a 7. His IQ right there at genius level. Obviously everybody sees what he's trying to do. Sometimes he doesn't pull it off, and that puts us under our defense under pressure. In a couple months ago, that had been a lot worse. But we've gotten a lot better on the defensive side, regardless of what these pundits say. We've controlled the game a lot better. We're just not doing the things at the end of the last third. So almost a 7, not the man of the match though. And then Pogba, I thought he played great in the first half. It's clear that he's trying to show that he's a good player. He got back a couple times. He was playing defensive. He did exactly what you want him to do. He still holds on the ball a little bit too much for me. And again, better players, better teams. It's gonna cause some issues. And he did it once or twice yesterday. Probably an 8 in the first half. Got the goal. Second half, probably a 5. So I'll give him a 7 overall. Still not the man of the match for me. But this is only the second game back against not great oppositions, of course. But you see the great player that's there. And I clearly he's probably frustrated as well. Now I don't know. He's another player FC as well. But he did nothing wrong, in my opinion, last night. I thought he played a good game, and that's a game that I expect him to do. The biggest thing is that for about 10 minutes we lost the midfield battle, and then we did and I think that's part of what Ralf likes to do. He tries to go over the midfield to get it to the strikers. If you're pressing well, you can do that, but we did a lot of long ball FC type thing, and we shouldn't be doing that. If our talent is supposed to be is what it says it is, we should be able to push pass through these teams, and we did that in the first half, not so much the second half. And we still had plenty of opportunities. Ronaldo had 2 decent heading chances, didn't put any of them on goal. Whatever. Okay, now Rashford played okay compared to what he's done for the last 2 months. Still, I think he's lost about a step. And I think what he did a couple of years ago, he decided to get bigger. And I think since he did that, he's actually lost a little bit when it came to his speed. I mean, if you look back at his highlights from when he was a teenager, first 2 years, he was blown by people, and now he doesn't do that much at all. Now, again, he's clearly a bigger man now, and he's filled out. But he's filled out because I think somebody told him he had to do this. Maybe he thought he was going to be a number 9 and not being out wide, and maybe he needs to learn, get a little bit more. What's the word? Less skin tone. I don't know what it is. Less shredded. And lose a little bit of weight there. If he's going to play out wide, if he's not going to play in number 9, now maybe he is. Maybe if we keep him, maybe when Ronaldo leaves and Cavani, he's going to be right there. Although I don't think he has He doesn't really have the touch to play there like Martial has. But anyway, overall for the team, I give him a 5. He is part of the first goal. You know, he actually looked up, pushed the ball back. He tried a couple other things. He tried better than before, last two things. But I really think at this point, I think he should be coming off the bench. I think that Alanga should probably play out there. And I think probably at Southampton, I'm hoping that Rashford will be on the bench. But here's another English player, so maybe that's why he gets pressure from the board saying we need to have him out there. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think that I think, but Alanga should have probably started. You know, if you want to talk about Ralf, Alanga probably should have started that game, and probably Ronaldo should have played the game. But these are just quips, and you got to give Ronaldo some time off. You do, whether he wants to or not. The other issue now, we're talking about football IQ. Pogba, I think, is average. And I told you that Bruno's probably a genius level. Rashford's below average. I think that can be changed. It's just a matter of him doing things that are more simple in nature, like he did when he first came up. It's there. He's still young. He still can be improved there. I think he's going to stay at Manchester United because he's a kid from the local area. So I think he's going to be there forever, at least for a while. So he's going to be part of that. So we're going to figure that out. And I think he can, if you give Ralf enough time, or if Ten Hag comes in, we can get better. Sancho, thought he was great practically the entire game. I think he showed why we got him. Not sure he was worth about $70 million, 75 billion, whatever, pounds. But he showed why he is. He was leak up was so great. He's clear. I mean, he's a real threat and a white forward that actually can have assists and do stuff. And if he just had a good players around him doing the right movements, he probably had 1 or 2 assists last time. But he was man of my match. I gave him a 7.5. It's great to see. He was playing shit with Ollie. So this is another player that came back under Ralf, and he's actually showing his worth. So when people like Rodney Marsh and Tommy Smith say they don't understand what Rangnick is doing, this is what you're seeing. You're seeing these players that weren't doing shit under Ollie. You see them coming out of their shell and showing they actually can play. Unfortunately, some of the players on the team, but unfortunately, these players were having problems before Ralf got there, and he's basically had to deal with that. The fact that we don't have a lot of center backs that we really can trust. This is what's going to happen. And I think that Sancho's IQ is not genius level, but just below that when it comes to football IQ. Great player. And I'm great that he's starting to show this way, and hope that he continually plays him. And if it's him and Alanga, him and Rashford, they need to keep changing sides and just doing this stuff so they can have both sides of that. And I think eventually that'll step up. And I think if whoever plays number 9 has to, when the chances get there, they have to make it. And I think for Cavani played well for the first half. I gave him a 6.5. Kind of not around in the second half, but again, we didn't play as well. And I think that he became basically what Mark says, the graveyard shift. So I give him a 6 overall. But I think that Ronaldo will have to probably start the next game at home. I would imagine that. So his IQ, one of the best. A genius for his level. So that's basically my team and my thing. And I think we clearly should have won that game. We should have won the game before that. I do see there's progress there, and I understand people have an opinion. These are players that people don't watch every game that Manchester United plays. Whether the fact that Rodney played the game 50 years ago doesn't mean that he knows better than somebody else. It's clear to me that there has been changes. Now, whether or not it's going to be enough, I don't know. And I don't like the idea of saying, do you really want him to be the guy that makes the best decision on the coach? Yes, I do. I want him to get Ten Hag. I don't want Pochettino to come here. I want a guy that's going to, I see what he's trying to do, and it's part of, we believe, of the DNA. Delo out there bombing down that right side. Either Tellus or Shaw. Shaw when he's going forward is really, really good too. His issue is that he just zones out, and that's the shit that when people that watch the game as much as I do, and you're thinking they just don't care, or they turn off. How can you turn off when you're up 1-0? When you need to win, so you at least have a chance to be the top four. And then they come out after the game and they have the same shit that they always say. And the captain comes out and just sits there and has no emotion. I mean, like I said, you cannot compare the last 10 years, almost a decade of Manchester United, even though that last year we won the championship. But the next year after that, we lost all that. I mean, really, the next year we still had good players. I think we finished 7th that year. Good leadership, and what we've had since then. It's different, but the whole world has kind of changed, and I think Manchester United is just not caught up for it because we don't have the same issues at Liverpool or at Manchester City. We pay our players better than everybody else. We pay way too much for them. We don't get great returns on our transfers out of the club. It's just there's so many problems there, and that's a totally different video, and this one's long enough as it is. But overall, basically, this is my response to crummy pundits. I think they're totally off base when it comes to Ralf Rangnick. You've got to give him the rest of the season to see where it goes. And even if we don't finish on the top 4, if we're playing well, we're it's there. You see the improvement. That's all you can really ask for at this time. Personally, I would probably get rid of a lot of the players. They could sit there and watch. And if there are players on the 23s or 18s that actually come in and play, I would let them come in. And I would get next year that we need to get Garner back. And all these guys need to come back and fight for the shirt and just go back. And if we don't win the league, that's fine. But I remember was it 2000s that Chelsea was dominant and we were, we'd go out and we'd lose 3-2 or something like that. Great game, should have won some of those games, but we were going through a transitional phase, and then of course we got the greatest team of the Premiership era. They say the 2008 team, who should have won a treble that year. We know that's not going to happen now, and you can't. The problem is, and again, it's a different video, so I shouldn't go there. I'm going to stop here because we're almost at 40 minutes. But thank you for watching. Please share this if you like it. I know I talk forever, but I like to talk about Manchester United. I've been doing it forever. I've been a supporter since I was 12 years old. I'm 56 now, 44 years. Long time. And when you're in the United States trying to be a supporter, it's kind of hard. Back then, I had to go to the library to find out what the score was. I had to get the London Times, and there's shit that I had to do this. Fortunately, back then, we got to see like the FA Cup final. I got to see that like a PBS or something. But anyway, thank you for watching. You guys have a good day, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.